Operation Encore is a 501c nonprofit that is helping veterans turn into rock stars every single day. You can learn more about what Operation Encore is doing by going over to their website at www.operationencore.org. That is www.operationencore.org. If you can give them a hand, just click that little donate button or follow all of their social medias and learn exactly what they are doing to change the lives of our veterans every single day. Hey, welcome everybody to Drunk Dudes in a Gun Room. Man, I am excited. So earlier this year, is actually still while I was doing season 2, I was on a podcast called The Vibes Broadway Broadcast Network. It was an amazing experience. I had to reach out and ask him to be on our show. So today we have got Kyle, the Coyote Yates, the host of the Vibes Broadcast Network. Let's bring him on. What's going on, man?
Man, another day in paradise.
Yeah, man. So why don't you give everybody a quick rundown, man, about your podcast and how it started?
All right. Well, the name of it, I have a network, put it that way. It's called the Vibes Broadcast Network, and I do 2 different shows on there by myself. One of them is the Listen to the Vibes, and the other one is called Into the Pit. Now, Into the Pit was actually my very first podcast I did, which was nothing but paranormal stuff, and it was going great, man. I met just about everybody you've seen on television that does a paranormal show. And to make a long story short, it's still going on. I just don't do it as often. I met an actor named Adrian Paul. Now, you meet a guy like that, how do you not ask him to be on your show, right?
Absolutely.
But I'm thinking, how do I incorporate him into a paranormal show? Well, it ended up just being an interview with the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just one of those people that you're so happy that you got to meet. And he tries to help people. He's very inspiring. So I thought, man, that's what I need to do, a show that inspires other people.
Yeah.
Because, we talked before about all my health problems, physically and mentally.
Yeah.
And people have helped me, and I just felt like I needed to give back. So that's when I started listening to the Vibes. And I've had all kinds of life coaches. I've had doctors. I've had actors, musicians, comedians, veterans, authors. I mean,
Yeah.
just a wide array of people. And all of them have something that seems to inspire or motivate, bring some kind of positivity to other people's lives.
Yep.
And that's what I'm all about. And during the process, I met this lawyer, and her name is Dorothy Mindock. Found out that she's actually from the town right next to where I grew up, and she is ex-military, and she is an advocate for soldiers to try to help them get their benefits and other legal problems they might have.
Okay.
And that inspired me again to dedicate my show to any veteran that wants to come on my show. Whether they're doing music, writing a book, maybe they've just been through a lot, and they just want to get their story off their chest. It's open to anybody that's been in the military to come on and just tell their story. And so my goal is to one day open a facility to help homeless veterans.
Wow.
And what I want to do is I want to have a counselor on site, a lawyer that is accessible, a place for them to go to live, and provide whatever it is that we can provide for them. Have like a Goodwill store or something downstairs where you know, because a lot of those guys on the street, they don't have a lot. They need, if they're going to get a job, they need clothes.
Yep.
They need shoes. They need
An
a
address.
razor. And they need an address. And there's lots of things they need. I had a discussion with someone. They said, "Yeah, you mean to make sure that they're not doing drugs or they're drinking or anything?" I said, "No, that's probably something that's going to deter them from going somewhere. Is if they feel like, well, if I can't have my drink, I'm not going there."
Yep.
I just want them to know that there's going to be someone there to help them if they want to get clean, but they need somewhere to go.
Yeah, that's like the king of the mountain problems. And I say that because when you're dealing with homeless, not just veterans, but homeless in general, you've got so many compounding problems. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you have to cure what caused them to be homeless in the first place, whether that be financial hardships, mental disorder, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
drug abuse, whatever it was that caused them to get them there, you have to cure that. But then you got to cure the PTSD from that as well, because you can't tell
Mm-hmm.
me anybody that's living on the street does not have some form of PTSD. You know,
Exactly.
they're not living in a town of 500 people where everybody's nice. They're seeing people get raped, killed, they're getting beaten, whatever. Hell, they can't even go in places to use the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you can't tell me that they don't have some sort of PTSD. So you got to deal with that problem. And then you've got all the other issues. I would say probably 99.9% of them don't have an ID card. So they don't have access to get to their birth certificates, their social security card. And I've dealt with this with my brother. My brother has been homeless several times.
Mm.
Do you know how hard it is to get a driver's license when you have no proof of who you are?
Oh yeah. Well, you have to have like a bill in your name.
Yeah.
It shows your residency,
Yep.
or at least someone that will vouch for you and say yes, they live here, and they're
They made him go to a doctor and get a doctor to say that, yes, he is who he says he is. How
yeah.
that guy knew he was, I have no idea. But there was a form that the doctor had to fill out and say, yeah, he's Frank Dunn. He's not somebody else. I mean, it's crazy. It's nonsense. You walk in without an ID card. You try to get an ID card, and they make you walk back out as a criminal because you still don't have any form of ID. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the goat rope that all those people are in, and it's just an endless carousel that just keeps going round and round. And so yeah, it is a huge problem, and nobody's going to want to help you because there's no return on their investment, you know and that's what it seems like. The VA don't really dedicate resources to homeless. They have a few programs, but you're so far on the waiting list that you're going to be homeless for years before they help you.
Well, I say even if they have a drug problem or an alcohol problem,
Yep.
they need somewhere to go, and I want them to feel comfortable going there. Know that hey, you've got resources here. We're going to help you get the help you need. We
Yep.
don't want you to stay this way. You got to want to help yourself,
Yeah.
and uh, it's going to have to be a lot of volunteers in the beginning
Yeah.
because we got to get it off the ground. But I'm going to have to raise the money to get a building and have it to where someone can move in. And I want it to be nice. I don't want it to just be a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
I want it to have all the amenities that anybody else would have. I want it to feel like they're in a penthouse,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And a lot of people don't realize this. While the people are homeless out there, they build this lack of trust. They don't trust anybody. They don't go to doctors because they're so paranoid that the doctors are going to do something to them,
Mm-hmm.
or they're going to lock them up or admit them in some place. And the only thing they got left really is their freedom, you know, the ability to decide where they're going to go and what they're going to do that day. But they don't have anything else. And so, just like you said, you've got to earn that trust first. And by throwing a bunch of rules down and everything else, you're not going to get that. So I do agree. You got to get them in there to get the help first. And if you say, well, you can't be on drugs, well, or you can't be drinking alcohol, you're not going to have anybody living there because they're not going to get clean on the outside.
Are you ready to experience the power of military community right from the comfort of your living room? Introducing Military United podcast streams, now available on the Roku channel. Get ready to dive into a world of incredible stories, inspiring discussions, and the best entertainment the military community has to offer. With our veteran podcast host, you'll gain insights into the experiences that have shaped our heroes. And that's not all. We've got a lineup of talented veteran musicians playing rock, country, and more. Get ready to rock out with these incredible artists who have served our country and are now ready to entertain you with their soulful tunes. But wait, there's more. We've also got veteran comedians who will have you in stitches with their hilarious and relatable stories. Laughter is the best medicine, and these brave men and women know how to deliver it. So gather your loved ones, grab some popcorn, and prepare for an unforgettable journey into the world of military podcast, music, and comedy. With Military United podcast streams now on Roku, you can access all this incredible content with just a few clicks of a button. Military United podcast streams on Roku channel. It's time to honor, entertain, and celebrate the incredible men and women who have served our country. Join us today and experience the power of the military community like never before.
So how are they going to get in there to begin with?
Exactly.
So, yeah, that doesn't make no sense. No, that is admirable. And that is, like I said, that is the mountain of problems. So
that's the least that I could do for someone that didn't know me and I didn't know them, but they put their lives on the line to fight for the country that I live in.
Yep.
So why not? We need to stop sending all this money to Ukraine and all these other places. We need to spend it on the veterans that we have here.
Yeah.
I know you probably heard that a million times, but that's the truth.
No, it is the truth. And I feel the exact same way. It has gone too long before that somebody has actually done something. We look the other way. We look at people while they're standing on the road and say, man, why don't you just get a fucking job? And we don't even think about what that phrase means.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't walked in that guy's shoes. I don't know what he went through, and maybe he's lying. He's not a veteran, but you can look at stats, and stats don't lie. Maybe the guy holding a sign can lie, but when you look at the stats aren't going to lie. There is a large number of percentage veterans that are homeless. And there's a reason for that. And we got to solve that problem. So, yeah, it is, man. Things I just didn't have the answer for, and there's no way that I could take that on,
Well, and honestly, even if you tell that guy get a job, how many people are going to hire someone that comes in that hasn't had a bath in probably weeks or months and is wearing clothes that are just, disgusting?
Yep.
Who's going to give a job to someone like that?
Yeah.
And
how do you hire?
Really their fault.
If they don't even have no form of ID, how do you hire them?
Exactly. I went off track with what you asked me, didn't I?
No, you're good, man. No, we just dug right into it, because that is a huge topic, and there's too many people out there that say, "Oh, that's something we need to solve," but they don't do anything to help it.
Exactly.
It's gonna take a group effort, man. And I think there is a lot of programs out there. I can put you in contact with a preacher. He's part, and I can't remember his organization. I'd have to think of it. But his organization, what they do is they help mostly the elderly veterans, not the homeless, for right now. So people that are old and they need a new roof and they ain't got the money or whatever, they'll go over and put a new roof on that veteran's house, or fix his fence, or put a ramp up because now he needs a wheelchair or something, and they do that all year long. And they're nationwide, but they have recently just got a contract and a license to build tiny homes, and they're donating all these tiny homes that they build to areas. One of them is in, I think it's either St. Louis or Kansas City. I can't remember which one, but they have a tiny home village for veterans only, built from these homes, and that's fine and dandy. You gave them a place to live, but there's again, you've got to solve the root problem, or you didn't do anything. You put a roof over their head, but if you didn't solve that problem that made them homeless, they're going to end up there again.
Yeah. Well, and I know that there's going to be a veteran that comes in who may have some pride to him, doesn't want just everything given to him.
Yep.
And if they could just help out with the other veterans, or with building maintenance, or helping me keep the place clean, or I know there's got to be someone out there who has the skills who could help with that. And it would be on a voluntary basis in the beginning, yes. But if I could get someone in who feels like they're contributing and could do something like that, man, that would be a help.
Well, you kind of think about this, right? The Goodwill's motto is that they take stuff that's donated to them, and that creates jobs. That creates jobs for an underprivileged, whether it be a disability or something like that. Somebody's got to sort that. Somebody's got to clean that. Somebody's got to put tags on it, move it, put it in the store. All these things, delivery, go pick up donations, and that's what their whole motto is. They resell the stuff to pay the payroll for the people that they've hired, and their building costs, and their nonprofit, and kind of like what you're describing would be the same sense. A person that's living there, it's not a handout, it's a hand up. You've now gave him a purpose again, because you have to build. You have to start from the ground over again. You have to rebuild these things. You have to put purpose in their life, because without purpose, they're not going to have motivation. And you've got to have those two things to get them through. And it's not going to be an overnight thing. If you put your rent's paid up for 30 days, you better have your shit figured out by then. You didn't do nothing, because these are problems that didn't happen overnight. They were year-long problems, and the fix is not going to be that way too. And maybe the ultimate goal is to be able one day to see them be able to get back in society, get a full-time job, and be able to interact with people, and pay their rent, and live somewhat of a normal life. And I say somewhat because trauma will always be there. You just have to learn the coping mechanisms to deal with it, and not let the triggers take over. And it takes time to learn those skills. So, and I think that's the reason why the VA has failed at this, because they've tried to become a one-stop shop for all problems, and they do everything somewhat, nothing great. They dabble in a lot of stuff. And I think what you're describing is going to take a group of organizations, not just one. Somebody that's taking the house projects on, somebody that's taking the psychological problems on, somebody that's taking the drug rehabilitation problems on, and combining all these into one area, and then wash, rinse, repeat into other cities. And I think that's really what it's going to take, so that everybody has their own specialty, and they can do their one task great versus everything somewhat. And that's really what it's going to take, and people like yourself that are doing it because they care, not because they want paid or a return on their investment, because there is no return on this other than you are helping people that, like you said, put their life on the line for us to have our life now. And that should be payment enough.
Oh, exactly. I'm not military myself. My grandfather was in World War II, and there's a lot of stuff he would not talk about.
Right.
He would tell me some of the funnier stories. When they would jack with each other, or I won't go into detail.
Yeah, no, I mean, I did the same thing with my family, until recently. When I came home, I talked about the funny stories, I didn't really talk about the stuff that I didn't want to deal with. And until recently, that the book that I was writing, went out to my family, and it did explain everything that I was going through during those years that I never talked about, down to the dreams I was having and all that stuff. And now I'm in the process of polishing it up because my daughter asked me to publish it, so I'm going to polish it up and get it published. But that purpose was to give them some in depth, because there were things I didn't want to sit there and talk about openly. I'm not one that likes to sit there and cry, and it brings up a lot of emotions with me. So um, things have gotten a lot better since these last 18 months, with support groups and podcasting and talking. There's stories now that I can get through that aren't as hard and as they used to be. Um, so that was the main reason why I wrote the book. I wanted to be able to put it in my words and not have to answer questions in the middle of it, and get my story across and my explanation, not an apology or asking for forgiveness for the way I treated people. It was just, this is what happened. I'm giving you the whys to what you need to know. And I think my daughter appreciated it. I don't know if my wife or my son read it, but my daughter was pretty vocal about it. So the ball was in their hands. That's what it's for. And so I did feel better after I did it. There's still things that I need to deal with my son, that because I was a lot harder on him than I was anybody else, and I'll be the first to admit that. So there's still things that I feel I owe him, but it's one of those things that, had I been homeless, these are things that would have never happened. I would have never gotten to that point where I could actually start working on the trauma, not just taking drugs and masking the problem, you know. And man, the week I've had at work, boy, a year ago I'd been in jail. I promise you. But that support, I owe a lot to that support group I was with, because they helped me with my temper quite a bit. And I kind of pat myself on the back for the way this last 3 weeks have gone. But it's a whole different story, man. And and the other thing too that's opening my eyes since I started podcasting, and we can narrow this down to a group. We can say, the homeless veterans has a problem, but in America we have a problem with mental health. I don't care if it's veterans or gays or anything. It's a human problem to deal with trauma, right?
Yes.
And I learned this. I never thought about it this way until the end of season 2. I had a British soldier on. I thought it'd be really cool to have somebody from England on that served in Afghanistan, and we could kind of talk about our differences and things that happened. And he said something all the way at the end of that show that just resonated with me. He said that his other podcast was about mental health. And I said, "Oh, really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Over here, we have a real bad problem with veterans killing themselves."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "That's not just an American soldier problem. That's everywhere. I thought it was just us." I never thought about that. And then it made me start thinking, "Wow, man, I wonder if our enemies are doing this." Is Ahmad from Afghanistan in some village right now trying to hang himself because of war? I don't know, but it makes you think and realize that this is not just a soldier problem. This is a trauma problem.
Yes.
And the drugs and everything that has came through our country has really hurt our youth. And it's trauma that, will be carried on. I'm a firm believer in that the trauma that we have now can affect our grandkids. It's the trauma stays in your bloodline, and it can resonate with your other generations.
Yeah.
So I am a believer in that there's energy that comes from it. And so you start looking at this problem, it can get really deep, and it's something that we need to fix. It's If we don't, as a nation, we're in trouble.
What happened to me as a child I was shocked at how many people that I had on my show that had the same things happen to them.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew that it happened a lot in this country, but I didn't realize how many people I was coming in contact with, which is another reason why I keep doing what I'm doing. Somebody's been through something I've been through. Some people have been through a lot worse than I have,
Yep.
and they need to know that there's people out there who can and will help you.
Yep.
I had a lady that she'd been trafficked 3 different times. And at one point, she had gotten prominent. Was doing really well. She
Yep.
was very successful
I know
and
who
was
you're talking about.
strict. Yeah,
Amanda Blackwood.
exactly.
Yep. Yep. She has an amazing story.
And it blows your mind.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I had her on my show too. And she actually invited me to come on. She's got a podcast as well called
Mm-hmm.
The Story of Survivors or something like that. But man, her story is so impactful. You know, when I heard her story, it really made me think, man, you know, I'm bitching about my job. I don't have problems compared to that. You know, she was losing a job because of a guy that wasn't even in the United States.
Exactly.
You know, I
And
mean,
he abused her, and he got her fired.
yeah, and she opened my eyes to something else too. I'm really glad you brought her up because I've been thinking about her a lot. Um, you know, before that show, I never had anybody on my show that really talked about human trafficking, and
Mm-hmm.
when she started talking about human trafficking, I'm thinking the sex trade, and then when she said, "Well, that's actually only like 15% of it," she said most of it's labor, and I was like, "Really?" She said the highest number of trafficking is people that are being brought into the United States and being forced to work in a restaurant that's owned by a family, and then they take the paycheck and keep it for the rent and the food that they're paying. But when they're off, they have to take care of the house. She said that's trafficking, and I was like, I never put that together because I was in situations in the military in Qatar where the government's talking about you have to watch human trafficking, but I'm going to tell you, it's happening. And the government's hiring these people because they contracted out to a contracting company that pays their employees based off of their race, based off their nationality. It doesn't matter what you do. If you're an Indian doctor, you get the same as an Indian mechanic. There's no pay raise. You're an Indian. If you're Pakistani, you get the same as all Pakistanis. And the conditions of your house is based off of where you come from. And I use Indies because in Qatar, they treat them the worst. You walk into a house that's got Indie workers in it, they're making them hot bunk. So a guy works 12 hours while he's at work. Somebody else is sleeping in that bed who works nights. And then they just flip flop,
Mm.
you know? And I was like, dude, I don't care what you say. That's trafficking. You know, I didn't say that at the time because I didn't know it. But after her show, I thought about it and I was like, holy shit, I was watching trafficking and didn't even realize it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, she got an impactful story, brother. You've had some big guests on your show, man.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I've had some successful people. I mean, like a rock star
mhm.
that had been molested as a child.
Yeah,
And you think, really, this guy, look how
yeah,
successful he's been, top of the charts, and
yeah,
a rock star, and this happened to him. You think, well, if this has happened to him, it can happen to anyone.
yeah. Absolutely, man. I mean, and it's tough, man, because there's another side to this, and it happens in our veteran community a lot. We judge people's trauma based off of how much we have healed or what we've gone through or so forth, and we forget that that healing process. There's another factor in this. Your upbringing, where you come from, really has a large factor in how much you can deal with. Have you ever wondered how you can help out the show? Well, that is very simple. You can help us out by going to www.twodrunkdudesinAgunroom.com. That is www.twodrunkdudesinAgunroom.com. There's many ways you can help us by listening to the show, supporting the show, liking, sharing, and everything else that comes along with social media. But one of our biggest goals is to help build the nonprofit Heroes Voice Media Foundation. This is a foundation that has decided to start celebrating courage and amplifying heroes. Find your voice with Heroes Voice Media Foundation. You know, and I'll use this as an example. You take a private in the Army that came in that was upper middle class, and the worst thing that ever happened was they got a D in a class.
Right.
And they go overseas and they hear a boom off in the distance, and next thing you know, they got PTSD. Well, that's their trauma. You know, maybe a guy that grew up in Compton that heard gunshots every single day as he's walking down the streets and seen people getting hurt all the time, that same thing doesn't affect them. Maybe it takes more to affect them or something else to trigger that. And you can't judge just where people are in their healing process or how they're feeling, because you don't know where they came from. And that's a huge factor in what they're dealing with, at least in my opinion, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So,
that's why I do my podcast.
yep.
I could make a lot more money talking about politics or pop culture and all that. I mean, yeah, I might have a conversation with someone about pop culture from time to time. I
Yeah.
try to steer away from the politics as much as I can.
Me too.
But you know, there's just too many people out there that have problems that they need somewhere to go.
I agree.
You may pass them on the street and you don't even know it, but if you know they do happen to watch my show or a show similar to mine, and they say, "Oh, I need to contact this person," and then they get the help they need. I may never know it, but I have to trust that that's happening.
And I guarantee you it is. And that's the other problem too. You know, the VA has tons of advertising money. You know, the government funds that.
Mm-hmm.
But the mom and pop 501(c)s don't. You know, they take word of mouth and they donate and dedicate every dollar that they can into the healing or their program or whatever it is. And they don't put that money like Tunnel for Towers, where they paid $2 million for a 30-second commercial or whatever, you know. And so if it wasn't for podcasts like mine and yours, some of these 501(c)s would never get known.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be local in their own little areas, and their reach is as far as their neighbors can yell. And it's unfortunate because they may be doing great things. And it may be that one thing that a guy one state over needed to stop him from killing himself.
Mm-hmm.
So you are absolutely right. Those are that is the amazing part of the podcasting world is the reach that we give the people at no cost to them to get the word out. And I have been able to refer people that have came on my shows. I've been able to connect other 501(c)s in hopes that maybe they'll do something even bigger together, you know? And I think it's, I do believe that as the one good thing that podcasting networks do, way better than any kind of, you know, mainstream media. That's for damn sure.
You know, another thing is it may not necessarily be a health problem or a mental problem.
Oh.
Say I bring one of the writers on and he says, "This is what I went through to get my book published," or a musician says, "Well, this is the path that I took in order to become successful." There might be, I don't know, a kid that's listening, or it just could be regular Joe, and says, "You know what? If they can do it, I can do it." And you might have the next Stephen King, or I don't know, Ted Nugent on your hands, and it's all because of somebody that came on the show.
I'm going to tell you something, man. I had an amazing guest on yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and he has no degree, Navy veteran, became a journalist. He developed Tourette's, and so he was only in the Navy for a year and a half when he started having symptoms of Tourette's.
Mm-hmm.
And once they diagnosed him, he's no longer eligible to be in the military. They had to put him out. And so he took up writing and became a journalist and won a few awards. And now he's an author that has sold over 1,300 copies of his book that he self-published. And he's teaching people how to write that have master's degrees in English. And he doesn't even have a college degree. He's all self-taught. And I told him, I said, man, that's the exact example of a veteran right there. We just don't give up.
It's not Christoph, is it?
It is.
How many people we have on our show's the same?
Yep.
He's so cool. He is so cool.
He's an awesome dude, man. Yeah, I as a matter of fact, I asked him if he would help out with our nonprofit with helping some of the authors that are in our program and just do a webinar to give him some tips, and he was excited to do it. So I'm looking forward to that too, because he's got so much knowledge, man. He really does when it comes to writing.
He is so cool. That's another thing. It not only helps other people out there, it helps me just as much.
Oh yeah,
because
absolutely.
I mean, I've made so many new friends, and I had to kick a lot of people out of my circle through the years because,
yep.
I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict, and I'm trying to stay away from that stuff. And I have friends who are my age and older who still think that they're teenagers and can still party every night or every weekend, and I just can't be around it. They don't want to try to better themselves, and I'm trying to better myself. And I think I talked to you about my health problems last time we talked.
You did.
I have a spinal disease, which I had to retire, but I don't want to just sit around and do nothing.
Right.
So this is an outlet for me. This is also a way for me who I may eventually make good money at. I hope, knock on wood.
Yeah.
But I don't get out as often as I used to. So I'm kind of stuck here all the time. And it's nice to be able to communicate with others.
Yeah.
And make the friends that I've made. They inspire me so much.
Yep. I think that I told you when I was on your show too, that, season 1, about 3/4 of the way through is when I realized that podcasting had became therapy for myself.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer. That's the basis for my nonprofit that I'm starting is using media to just make room so you're not so bound up and have so much anxiety over the stuff that you're bottling up, to give you an outlet until you can find, or until you're ready to put in the work and really deal with the trauma. This is just an outlet. And so that's what we do is we try to keep people doing it, so that they don't isolate and be alone and start putting bad thoughts in their mind again. And I kind of there for a while became selfish, man, because I was getting so much out of it. I didn't even care at that point anymore if one person watched my show or 10,000 people watched it. And that period of my podcasting, if you want to call it a career, I don't, whatever you call it, I was able to put in the work, man. And podcasting led me to the Warrior's Way mindset. And that group therapy led me to being able to deal with my tempers and my demons and stuff a lot better. Still got a lot to learn, still got a lot of work to do. And now I'm back to, trying to grow my show and to help other people. I had a guy on that's got an amazing thing. His podcast, it's called The Fallible Guy. I don't know if you've had him on your show or not, but it's actually his job. That's his business. But he started another podcast, and he hasn't turned it into a 501c, but he feels real passionate about kids should have somebody to read to them. Mainly, he feels real strongly that they should have a dad that can read to them.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, he's not saying that, talking about just divorces, maybe the dad passed away or whatever. What he does is he takes children's books and does a podcast of him reading it. There's no advertisements. There's no nothing, no names on it. It's him, a camera, and a book, and he's showing the kids, and that's what he uploads and does. He doesn't take any credit for it. He has no names on it. It's called Read Me a Story, Dad. And I liked it so much that he asked me if I wanted to be a part. And I asked him, I said, do you only do kids books like The Cat in the Hat and stuff like that? Or have you done like longer sessions? And he said, well, I've started with just a little stuff. And I said, well, I have a book that I love that I think every kid should read. I said, so if you don't mind, I'll do maybe each chapter will be a different episode, or maybe I'll do an hour at a time, whatever I decide to do it. But I'm going to read Where the Red Fern Grows.
Oh, I love that book.
I do too, man. It's one of those books that, I own both versions of the movie. I now just bought the book to do this podcast for him. And I'm just, every chapter or whatever, I'm going to just send him the link and he can download it and upload it. I'm going to cross out my name and everything on the back so they don't, I don't really want to have two drunk dudes label on the back while I'm reading a story to a kid, but I don't want the credit for it. He don't have to mention my name or mention the podcast at all. I thought that was an amazing thing, because I do feel that there's a problem in society where for whatever reason kids are not having two parents in a house, and you need both.
Yeah.
Boys need that feminine side of their mother as much as they need that male side of their father, and I think it's important. So when he said that, I said, dude, I never thought about that. But that was one of the goals I wanted for season 3, is I wanted to dedicate my season to a purpose. And I thought that was an amazing purpose. So, I think the podcasting community, man, does so many great things. And maybe people don't realize it because there's so many people like yourself that isn't out trying to just take credit for it. They just want to help. And, I think the other problem is we got too many people that are TikTok minded and they can't get past 2 seconds or 3 seconds before they want to scroll. And that's unfortunate because they're missing out on a lot of good stuff.
Well, the thing is, you do stuff like we do, it's not as popular. People like the negative stuff.
Right. Yep.
And we're trying to do something positive. I've had different podcasters on my show that do stuff similar to what we do. And they have such great material, but I go and I list like their YouTube channel or what have you, and I see how many people are subscribed. I see how many people watch their videos.
Yep.
It's not that many.
It's not.
And you're talking, even if you don't want to watch a full episode of what I do or what you do or they do, just 5 minutes of your day, even if you just turn it on, you don't even have to pay attention, just turn it on.
Yep.
You would be helping someone else, because then it starts getting in the algorithm when people are starting to watch.
Yeah.
But I get it. Some people just aren't interested.
Yeah. And that's the other problem too, is you can't, I try to educate people, especially the people that are in our podcasting program. It's taken me years to realize how important reviews really are. If you're not getting reviews, that's the largest thing that these algorithms look for, are people commenting on your stuff. Because if they didn't even take the time, that computer assumes that nobody liked it. It's not the downloads. People get wrapped up in how many downloads you get. It's the interaction that is coming from it. And unfortunately, so many people don't take the time to review when they like, but they're quick to leave you a review when they don't.
Oh yeah.
you know, and it's like a double whammy, man, because you need that. You need that ratings to get in the algorithms so that these major platforms, these gatekeepers, whatever you want to call them, are putting you on the front cover versus burying you. You know?
Just that second it takes to hit that like button and to leave a little comment.
Yep.
You know? And I know exactly what you're talking about, and I don't know why anybody would do this, but I had a lady on my show who is writing books, and the money that she makes goes to research the disease that she has. Now she's gonna die. You
Yeah.
know, she's got at this point probably less than a few months left to live.
Oh wow.
But I've had her on my show twice because, you know, I just felt like what she was doing was important.
Yeah.
And I thought surely nobody would dislike this. And I actually had people dislike it and leave me nasty comments.
What?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I don't understand that.
I don't either.
I had a guy even call me, I can't even repeat what he called me. I don't get it, man.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I do get it why people leave me nasty crap. My name brings a lot of that on, you know. And I'm cool with it. You know, I accepted this when we named the podcast, that we knew we were not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And I'm not going to change my podcast because I'm not trying to be everybody's cup of tea, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So I just ignore the negative comments. But to leave a negative comment on a show about that, wow. And you don't have a name like Two Drunk Dudes in a Gun Room, you know, two things that definitely don't go together and completely should contradict each other, you know. And you know, so I get why I get it. I don't get why somebody, you know, watches a show with your name and a show about content about somebody that's trying to heal other people, knowing that they're not going to be healed themselves. How do you live with yourself after doing that, man?
I don't know. I mean, if you leave a comment on there and you say you don't like my style or you think I'm
Right.
boring or something, okay,
The audio sucks or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. But to leave something nasty about a woman who's dying and her last wish is just to make money to go research to help other people who are just getting diagnosed with the same thing she has.
Yeah. And she's not even asking you to give me money. She's asking you to buy her book.
That's it, you know, and buy it or not. You don't even have to buy it, but why say something nasty?
Operation Encore is a 501c nonprofit that is helping veterans turn into rock stars every single day. You can learn more about what Operation Encore is doing by going over to their website at www.operationencore.org. That is www.operationencore.org. If you can give them a hand, just click that little donate button or follow all of their social medias and learn exactly what they are doing to change the lives of our veterans every single day. Right. Yeah, that's why I say, man, there's a mental health problem in America. You know, I had a guest on, and I know we're getting close to the top of the hour, but I had a guest on, right? That she was a psychic,
Mhm.
and her name was June
Edwards.
Edwards. Yep, June Edwards. Absolutely. And she said something in that podcast, you know, and I had her on, not really necessarily, you know, being sold. I do believe in some things. I do believe in psychic abilities. I do believe in the paranormal. I do believe in that stuff. Man, she answered a question I had in a way that I have never heard before in my life. And I have asked military chaplains the same question. And the answers they gave me, I never really bought. So they say in the Bible that, you know, killing, murder is an unforgivable sin, right?
Mhm.
So my question is where does that put soldiers? Because unlike the people that came from World War I and World War II, I feel like they had a war that was of just cause. After that, we were put in wars by political minds to spread our shit and gather resources, and it was all about profit and gain, in my honest opinion, as a veteran. I didn't feel that way while I was in, but when I started putting the pieces together as the war was coming to an end, I seen things that made me feel like maybe we weren't over there to free the Iraqis that were suffering or the Afghanis that were suffering. You know, I felt like we could have ended the Afghanistan war a lot sooner and left in a much better way. All these things I felt like. So it kind of made me feel like, so, the people that we've killed, are we going to pay for that? So I asked her that. And she said that that's not the way it is. She said it's murder and killing somebody. They're talking about the feeling. So after you did it, did you feel good about doing it? And that right there is the deciding factor on whether it's murder or not. And I said, okay, that does make sense. So that, if it was done out of, saving yourself, then maybe it's a forgivable act, But then she started talking about how heaven and everything really was. And man, that kind of blew my mind too,
Well, it's not so much that it's totally unforgivable, because even King David had murdered someone.
Right.
In fact, he even committed adultery, and his adultery was what led him to murder. But yet, God still used him as the king of Israel.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I really believe was very repentive in his heart. If you are not repentive, you just did it because you love to do it, or you just in a
Right.
malicious way that you just didn't feel bad about, then I could understand that not being forgiven.
Yep. And I think that's kind of basically what she was saying too, is it's the feeling behind the act, not so much the act. And, you know, it is, especially if you believe in the paranormal, and the things that she was talking about. And I still want to, I've had just a lot of stuff going on, but I still want to sit down with her and pay for her services just to see and because I am a believer in psychic ability, and I do believe that there's a lot of things, a lot of potential in humans that we just are not aware of yet. And maybe that's another podcast, but I do think that we have the ability to do great things. You know,
We
we
do.
we just need to come together and help each other, not be a nation that's so hateful against other people.
Yeah, I think the problem with a lot of people is they can't distinguish between hating the sin and hating the sinner.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, man. I do still have, uh, I still have a problem. There's still some stuff that I got to work through. Um,
We all do.
uh, I've had a hard time turning off the hatred for Afghanis and Iraqis coming back. I've lost a lot of friends and seen a lot of things that just, sometimes I have a hard time realizing that there's just evil out there. It's not a race. It's just there's evil out there that, if you believe in heaven and God, you have to believe in devil and demons. And I'm a firm believer, man, that maybe in that war we were actually fighting demons, because I seen a lot of stuff that I just don't. It's just hard to believe that a human is capable of thinking about doing that. And so these last few months, man, I've tried to work through that, and it's still ongoing. But it is tough, man, when you've lost so many friends to a war. And it's happened, the Vietnam veterans came back with hatred in their hearts. And maybe it's because that's what you need to live while you're over there. But it eats at you too, man.
And you got to realize some of them, they weren't just born that way.
Right.
Somebody had to drill that in their head.
Yeah. Yeah.
And although I'm in no doubt in my mind that a lot of them just were hateful people, there was still a few that they just did it because they had to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean,
you can't distinguish between that when you're in the battlefield, though.
no. I mean, there was a lot of times, we were having firefights and they were probably more so farmers than they were enemy, because we were burning their crops. That was the main reason why the British was over there, was to get rid of the opium.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a farmer, if you can make a dollar a pound for opium or 10 cents a pound for corn, what are you going to grow?
Right.
It's not illegal over there. It's just a plant. Well, when you're coming in and people are coming in and burning what you need to survive through the winter, you're probably going to pick up a gun and try to defend it as well.
True.
And so there was a lot of times that, battles and little scrimmages came against farmers and villagers, not so much the Taliban. It's unfortunate. It really is. But
Like you say, you didn't have time to go out and have a conversation with someone and find out how they really felt.
no, nor were they going to wait and ask us if we were going to burn their crops either. So, well, brother, I know we're getting close to the top here. Why don't you take a moment, man, and tell everybody a little bit about your podcast, where they can find you, and all the good stuff that you got going on.
Well, I really work hard on my YouTube, so that's under the Vibes Broadcast. I'm also on Rumble and on Odyssey, Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout has its own little entity, but it also sends it out to iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast. I can't remember what else, but most anywhere you want to look, it's under the Vibes Broadcast. My two shows are Listen to the Vibes and Into the Pit. There's a few others that I was working on with some other folks, but they weren't as dedicated as I am. And will you share out the links?
Absolutely. Yep. All the links will be in the bios of all wherever they see it. So whether it's on my YouTube or if it's on Facebook, it'll be in all of the audio ones as well. So, yep.
Well, just ask everyone to give it a try. There's should be something on there for someone. And if you like it, leave it a like. If you don't like it, you can dislike it, not watch it again. But let me know if you saw it on here. And let me know if there's something I can do to improve, because I'm always open to criticism. I'm
Absolutely.
not perfect. I'm trying. Even my editing's gotten a little better than what it used to be.
Well, I think we all, you go back to my first few episodes, and I wish I could just delete them because I know it wouldn't be right because it shows growth. But man, they are horrible.
Yeah, I've had some pretty bad ones.
Yeah, I had a guy leave me a review just recently. He left me a 3-star review. Said that that the host or the guest's audio was great, but the host, his audio was really hard to hear. And at first I was like, what are you talking about? I mean, I spent a lot of money on my stuff. And then I got to think about it. It's like, well, I wonder which episodes he watched, because there was a time where I forgot to change the mic and it was picking up off my computer, and I didn't know it till 6 weeks after I had uploaded it because I hadn't listened to it. And I said, so maybe he listened to those. Maybe it is actually a fair review, And that's kind of the way I look at it, man. I'm not perfect either. I've made mistakes. I got some editing on the last one I do. I forgot to hit record as I was doing the intro and everything. So I got to go back and fix that before I upload it. But again, I'm not perfect, man. Just like you said.
Well, I'm trying. I work very hard to try to improve, and I'm trying to get the best guests on that I can. Some of them are, you never know what you're going to get.
You're right. Hell, you never know if they're going to show up.
That's happened to me many a times too.
Me too, man. Me too.
Just say, just give it a try.
I'll tell you a real funny story real quick, and then we'll put you in the green room, and I'll throw the exit up there. But I just recently had an appointment. A guy invited me on his podcast, and I logged into the link he sent me, and he had no audio. I couldn't hear anything. He could hear me, but I couldn't hear him. And finally, he said, "Do you have Zoom?" I said, "Yep, I got Zoom." He said, well, "Let's just switch to that. I know my audio works there." So we switched to Zoom, and then we both came up and we did this. And then finally he looked at me and he goes, "Am I on your show or are you on mine?" I said, "Well, I think I'm on yours." And he goes, "Oh, I thought I was on yours." And I'm like, "Well, then why are you sending me the link?" But yeah, so we're going to reschedule it. We're going to work that out. We're still going to do it, man. But I thought that was funny, man. We're definitely, nobody's perfect. And man, when anybody that does this stuff, you learn real quick. It can be hectic and overwhelming, and you've got a lot of hats to put on. So it is hard to get everything absolutely correct, especially when you're doing it by yourself.
That's no lie.
Yep. All right, brother. Well, I'll put you in the green room, and we'll throw the exit up, and I'll be with you shortly.
All right. Thanks, man. Right. Thanks to y'all too.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on, brother. All right, man. So any of y'all that have not watched this show, I have subscribed to the YouTube channel. I've been on his show, and I can vouch. He puts a lot of work into it. It is a great show. I enjoy it. And again, shows like mine, it's just about caring and being there for the other people, man. None of us are trying to be the next Joe Rogan. We're just trying to make the better one person at a time. And I think that's important. And like you said, man, turn it on, listen to it. If you don't like it, listen to 10 minutes of it. Shut it off, leave a review, and you're helping others. Listen to the whole thing, because you may find a resource that can help somebody that you know. Maybe it's not for you, but it might be for your neighbor. And that's what it's about. It's about networking and helping others. So I hope everybody has an awesome day. Remember, kick the day's ass. Don't let it kick yours. Y'all take care. Be safe. We'll see you next week.